There are 3 editions of Minecraft on the Xbox. There's the console edition, but better, and then there is Bedrock. But there are actually 10 separate physical releases, so many that Mojang is looking to discontinue some. There are games that Minecraft intended to sell and then never did. There are games that seemingly are missing, and today I want to show every single physical Minecraft release and then show my attempt to get a full collection of the games that matter most to me. And so with that said, enjoy this journey, because I need to start with how there's one Minecraft. Minecraft is the same on every platform. At least if it just says Minecraft at the top, denoting Bedrock, right? Well, it's actually not. The farlands can be different, your maximum render distance changes, and the game itself has all sorts of bugs that will appear on just your one version. Even more interesting is the fact that some platforms have physical releases while others do not, and this creates a huge divide between how your Minecraft can be experienced on one platform versus another. Take the Nintendo Switch, for example. Just like the PlayStation 4, it was eventually replaced by Bedrock, but because it was replaced during the time period where the game was meant to be made available, but yet had not been, it is theorized that copies had been printed, but actually not distributed. This means that if you want to play Minecraft with this little additions button, you'd better be playing on the PlayStation 4 edition, where you can still find those discs. Or, to give another example, Minecraft Xbox One edition was clearly the better selling copy way back in the day, and so it had these variants, namely including this favorites pack, but there is no PlayStation 4 equivalent. Or, take for example, the Minecraft Bedrock PlayStation 4 release. It was only available with that additional DLC that they shunned earlier, but still, that means that there is not the ability to buy just the game for Bedrock, which means either the advantage of always getting the DLC, or the disadvantage of having to pay for it. These are big differences that kind of point out the missing Minecraft versions. The 3 main game ones are interesting, but it gets even more interesting when we talk about the wider franchise, because Minecraft Story Mode had lots of physical releases that were simply missing. And this is really interesting to point out, because it shows how Minecraft is meant to be this simple cross-platform game, but it's actually not. If you want to play Minecraft, same game, same exact updates, well, even before accounting for the Apple and Android tax, it's going to cost you a lot less on Android or iOS, and interestingly, there's no such thing as a physical release, which doesn't make a big deal now that most people buy their games physically, but it actually does make a big difference, and to explain why... So I'm going to explain the difference between digital and physical copies of something by using train tickets. I have a physical train ticket, which means that I can go through these train barriers simply by putting it in the machine, just like this. Easy peasy. But the problem with this is now I have to keep this physical ticket with me, and if I don't, now I'm obviously going to be looking like I'm someone who doesn't own it, or maybe I won't have access to the train whatsoever. This is why an increasing number of people choose to buy digital tickets, and the same is true for software. If you wanted to, you could go out to the store and buy a physical copy of a game, or you could simply get yourself a digital one. You don't have to leave the sofa, it's much more convenient, it'll start downloading immediately, and you might be able to play your game a little sooner. This also allows for you to switch games without moving discs around, and there are some benefits, but there's also some downsides. You see, digital releases usually are going to force updates, and also digital games are at the mercy of whichever service you are getting them from. So if your device were to have some issues, if your account were to be hacked, or indeed if you break the terms of service, these digital purchases can be rescinded because you don't own digital games, you are permitted to play them. I like to think of it as the real-world equivalent when it comes to property of renting versus buying. Even if you have an incredibly long lease, there are slightly different rules when you have the right to use something versus when you own it, and the same is true for video games. And weirdly, although that analogy makes sense, the difference between the rent you pay to own somewhere and the price you pay to buy it outright is hugely different, and this is only really matched with really old games. Take Minecraft Legends. With a really dried out supply, you can buy a digital copy for just 58 pence in the UK, or 52 if you have Plus Premium, whereas if you want to buy a physical copy, it will be much closer to £20. We are talking about a 40 times price difference, and this is because physical is the only way to own something. Well, if we're being real on that, like physical or piracy, but you'd have to pirate it to make it physical. But if you want to actually own the thing and have the right to do what you like with it, you need to have that physical copy, at least legally speaking. And so even better, it's actually the easiest and most reliable way to own an older version of any Minecraft game, which do not store those older versions and do not make them accessible like Java. That means that if you want to actually own an older version of a game, perhaps one you are nostalgic for, you have to, if you want to follow the law, buy a copy of that and hope that it was printed in the time that you have that nostalgia. Kind of wild, but that is why I think that if we're talking within the legal system, which we all live in, the only way to own Minecraft is a physical copy. Which is what got me thinking, if we know that there's a bunch of copies, in fact actually, we do. Here's a very handy spreadsheet put together to show every single Minecraft copy. If you truly want to own the Minecraft franchise, you can pay $2.5 billion in 2014. I can't imagine what the price is like these days. Inflation, am I right? Or you could go on a journey to collect them all. Now, for a short-term service like a train, this actually makes a lot of sense. You don't need to own a train ticket, but do you need to own things that you love? Or things that you care about? That's the question for this video, isn't it? Okay, so my editor Harrison and I both have a very soft spot for Minecraft. Well, I don't know if that's obvious from this channel, but he's decided to collect every single Minecraft copy, which is why this spreadsheet exists, whereas I looked at my Minecraft collection, here are the games that I own, and I realized that if we exclude the PlayStation and my TU-29 beta, then you can see that I own 4 copies of Minecraft for the Xbox, and given that it is the Xbox version of this game that I have such a soft spot for, I figured it'd be worth collecting more. So here are the 4 copies that I own right now. I've got Minecraft Xbox 360 edition, Minecraft Xbox One edition, that cost me £28 apparently, and then I've got 2 versions of Minecraft Bedrock, one for the Series X and Xbox One, and one for the Series X and Xbox One, but in the different corner of the game art, because as it turns out, they've changed this art a few times. There are lots of different ways to buy Minecraft, and there's lots of different ways to, lots of different games in the series, and so now comes the question, how do you own every version of Minecraft if, like me, that's something you'd like to do? Well, there's 3 easy ways. You can just go online. This is what I did. I went on CEX and Amazon and bought the easiest copies that I did, and perfect. Or, if you'd like to get potentially lower prices and potentially different availability, you can go in person. And so I've taken my copies of Minecraft to Stevenage. This is commonly known as a better place for everyone, because it's actually one of the UK's best towns. In the 1950s, they put together this beautiful network of cycle lanes all the way across the town that allow you to traverse it without ever having to deal with the many major roads. And so as a result, it's known as a great place to live and one of the best places in the UK. I've been excited to see it forever. I mean, look at this road lane layout. Well, actually, is it meant to be? So many people would say that Stevenage, as a result of that, is kind of their personal mecca. But for me, I'm just here for the CEX. Now that we don't have any game retailers in the UK, it means that the only place you can actually get physical games is one of these sorts of stores that sells other people's games that maybe they're giving to them for distress reasons. But in either case, let's see what I get for these. Hi, I've got a couple of copies of this to trade in. How's that?
So store credit is £24 or cash is 16.
Oh, I'll take store credit, sure.
No.
That's pretty good. Thank you. So now I can just use this receipt and I can... Wonderful, thank you. Slim pickings here, but we do have Minecraft Story Mode, which is just £3 because it's episode 1 only, and then Minecraft Story Mode, The Complete Adventure. Okay, I bolstered my Minecraft collection as best I could, but there is in fact a third way, which I'll tell you right after this advertisement for a channel membership. Would you like to get a lovely green name, as green concrete or as a grass block? Well, you can do so by simply deciding to join the channel. This is how you get access to the exclusive half Let's Plays, the ones that are kind of like the 2012 style. This is how you get access to the lovely green name and the warm fuzzy feeling that you're supporting a creator that I assume you like, or I mean, on some level, you're this deep in a video, right? I assume you have to at least have some positive feelings, but if you don't, then let's tell you about the third way that you can collect all the Minecraft copies, because did you see that I had a TU-29 disc there? It's a holdover from an old joke I had that I worked at 4J and could access future updates early, but you could simply create physical copies of all these media. The moral argument against this would be that you're not supporting the creators. They did not intend for you to be able to buy this, and so it's not your moral obligation, or it's not within your moral rights to just decide that you're going to make it. Most of these discs are long since discontinued, and so there's an argument that you're not supporting the creators even when you go out and buy this Minecraft story mode. I mean, Telltale went bankrupt a long time ago, and so you could make the argument, and I think many do, that like once a game has passed a certain age, and once you have bought the reasonable digital licenses wherever you can, that then you are entitled to own a physical copy. I think this is a much more complicated moral argument than we can go into today, and it's one of the interesting parts of digital ownership and the whole, well, if you can't own something fully by buying a digital license, can you ever really steal something fully? You know, if buying isn't ownership, is stealing piracy? It's a hard debate that I'd love to lend some moral weight to, but ultimately all I can really say is that this is kind of right now a person-by-person decision that seems to vary drastically based on what country you live in too. So what I can add to this discussion is the fact that there are some incredibly rare and hard versions of Minecraft to find. If you are looking for Minecraft Story Mode for Nintendo Switch, the complete adventure is currently going on eBay for £60, that is this amount in dollars, and if you want Story Mode Season 2, it's £90. You cannot buy these things digitally anymore because the company that owns the rights does not exist, and if you buy a physical copy, you are not supporting that developer, you're supporting someone who went out and bought it. But isn't there an argument that that is valid too? That like, yeah, if there are a limited number of copies of this thing, don't aren't you screwing over that person who is buying a bunch of them? Or is there an argument that software is not meant to be hoarded by the few, but held by the many? This is the fun thing and the fun debate about it. But even more interesting is the fact that these are only the rarest physical versions. No one is actually excited to play Minecraft Story Mode on their Switch. I mean, I'm sorry if you are. I'm laughing at you anyway. But no one is that excited to play Minecraft Story Mode on their Switch, given its wide availability on other platforms. But if you want to play Minecraft Nintendo Switch Edition, then the physical copy of that game is literally, the value is somewhere between £60 and infinity, because we can theorize they were created. They announced that they were going to be coming out physically, but then the Bedrock program got involved and they decided not to release the physical version till Bedrock came out. And so we theorize there is at least a physical version that is meant to exist. Whether or not there are copies hidden at 4J or hidden at Mojang or just sat in a desert somewhere, it is hard to say, but Minecraft Switch Edition digitally is one of the rarest things that you can own because it gives you that rare and incredible right to play both the Switch Edition, the console edition that launched on Switch, as well as Switch Minecraft. You cannot buy that anywhere else right now, physically or digitally. The same is true for Minecraft on the Apple TV. I think far fewer people mourn for that, but they just never updated it to Better Together because they couldn't for some reason. But both of these are reliant on you owning an account on the Nintendo or the Apple App Store and being able to download it from there. But here's the crucial problem. If we're talking fully legally, because there is no physical release, because they are digital only and rely on stores that do not have a promise to exist forever, and even if they did promise, that's just not fundamentally possible because of the temporary nature of everything, companies and businesses included. If you want these things to, if you want to play these things legally, it is just a matter of time until one day it's not possible. And so this makes the strongest case, I think so, for super old versions of games. If they won't sell them anymore, then is it okay to just have it for yourself? Well, let's go to the other side of this argument, because for Switch Edition and Apple TV Edition, I think I feel no ill will. If a company won't sell you something, then it's much harder to argue that you shouldn't steal it. But again, you make your own moral judgment there. But what I think is interesting is, what about those physical copies? They are going up in value over time. Minecraft Story Mode for Nintendo Switch retailed for this amount, but now it can go for £90 plus, and this price will go up over time. So is it worth buying these to potentially make a profit? I mean, probably not. Okay, no, for real. I have been thinking about this, and given that you've seen in this video so many examples of games that have gone up massively over their retail price, is there an argument that just like how buying a house is not just better than renting because you get to, nail stuff into the walls, but is buying better than renting because you get to sell when it comes to video games? Is this not just a needless form of consumption, but is this actually an investment? Well, there's an argument for yes, but first, let's give the much bigger argument for no. Because most games do lose value over time because people lose interest. One of my favorite N64 games was one called Blast Corps, and you can buy it right now for a tiny fraction of what it originally sold for. That is to say, if you bought it like a stock, you'd have lost most of your value, and so this is the general trend, even for games with a big following. There are only a few niche exceptions to this rule. If you look at GameCube games, because people love to play those, Super Smash Bros. Melee is a great example of one that has appreciated, but not even by that much. It is a limited supply of something that is still worth barely more than when it originally released, and if you look at the inflation-adjusted value, it's actually not great. And so consumerism is a waste of the limited resources we have on this planet, is what lame people will say, because if that's only true if it doesn't make you happy. I think that owning all these new copies of Minecraft on the Xbox makes me happy, and the idea of owning the full collection physically does that even more. But if you would value a flight to Sweden more than you value, buying a copy of Minecraft Dungeons for the Xbox One, or indeed a 2,600 calorie milkshake, it even comes with crustaceans. If you would value these things more than you would value owning this silly little disc that gets you the access to something you already own, then that's your call, and you're probably right to make it that way. I wouldn't ever go into this expecting to make a profit, and I wouldn't say you can treat this like an investment. I would say treat it like a fun expense that technically allows you to recover some of that value later, unlike a consumed Oreo shake or a flight. Well, actually, I turn my flights into videos, and I do sell those for a fraction of a penny, and thousands of people buy them. So arguably, I do make a profit on some flights, but I've never made a profit on a chocolate Oreo shake large with crustaceans inside. So maybe that's something I need to change. Wow, this thing has 52% of your daily dietary fiber. This is basically healthy. I need to do a drink review for 263 grams of sugar? Oh my god. Anyway, so how is that only 111% of your daily intake? How are you allowed to have 300 grams of... Anyway, so the important thing here is that you can decide what you want to do. You have free will, you have agency, and what should you do with that agency? Well, if you're me, here's what I think is fun. One of the joys of owning the disc version that I've alluded to repeatedly is the idea that you can keep this older version of the game that's different to the one that exists today. You see, many of the games from my childhood that I referenced in this video, Blast Corps or Super Smash Bros. Melee, even if you download the latest software version, it's still going to be that exact game from your childhood, but this isn't true for Minecraft and the live service games that followed it. When I go back to the first version on the disc of Minecraft Xbox 360, I get this classic castle tutorial world that just brings me back to my past, because even as games evolve and change mostly for the better, you still lose access to this. Title Update 0, wow, there's a weird buggy cape and everything's just different and reminds me of those simpler times. And honestly, I'm a big believer in the fun and the joy, and honestly, the hackiness you get from doing this in the legit way. But it is worth mentioning, and I do always have to mention, that you can technically, emulation does exist. I won't be telling you about anywhere to find it here today, but it is very much frowned upon by these companies who realize that it allows you to get their software for free, but emulation does exist, and you can emulate any version or any copy of any version off any game by using this, and honestly, thanks to that, we have so many things archived that would simply be lost otherwise. But if you want to just get a little bit of easy nostalgia, go to a game store, buy a copy of the disc game that you know got an update, and play the old version. Return the disc afterwards if you want to do it for free. There's something wild about doing it on original hardware that's just a joy I felt like I had to mention before we move into the conclusion. I think that this whole video has gone back and forth between the idea that, like, this is a rare physical thing that you can own, and this is a cool thing that you can do, and the idea that, like, well, isn't ownership kind of silly? But the real conclusion after going through this whole video is that if you have a connection to something, if you really care about the thing that exists in the world, then you should probably own some small stake of it. I think that some people like to take this as meaning, well, buy a share in the company. I own a couple shares of Microsoft, and so I basically own Minecraft, but it's much more important, in my opinion, to own this, like, physical remnant, this copy, this thing that you can show off it. One of the reasons that humans love to own weird things from jewelry to ornaments is as an opportunity to show and to share with those around us, and so I am looking forward to finishing my collection of Minecraft Xbox, and Harrison is looking forward to finishing his collection, partially for display reasons, partially for this idea that you can have an entire collection of something, not just in the mental sense, but in the more physical sense. And I genuinely think that that is worth doing if it's something that appeals to you. If it's all pointless consumerism anyway, then buy yourself a milkshake and be happy. Just make sure you don't throw it up, because that's what happens every time I try. Otherwise, though, here are the copies of Minecraft that do not exist. You cannot buy these. Here are the digital copies you cannot buy. And here is the rarest and hardest to find versions for Minecraft Switch. If you have these, just know that you technically got a little rich. Well, I mean, is £90 rich? Depends on your view of the economy, really, doesn't it? Anyway, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you found this to be a fun dive into the past. And if you can subscribe, it would really make up for the fact that I had to go to Stevenage today. Oh, terrible. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.